Hello, passengers. Welcome aboard Long Walk Talks Lost. This is your pilot speaking. My name is David Hensley, and I'm the owner and creative director of Long Walk Productions. I am joined tonight by my two co-pilots,
Robert Bradford,
Cara Hayes. And
we are continuing our Lost 20-year retrospective. We are now in the middle of season 3, and I made an unfortunate, kind of sad revelation to Cara at dinner earlier this week when we did our themed meal. We're more than halfway through the show.
Man.
And I don't mean the season. I mean the last Echo episode, Further Instructions, that was the 54th episode of 108.
It's easy to forget because the seasons 4, 5, and 6 are all shorter than, and I think each of the first 3 seasons is like one episode shorter than the last one.
Mm-hmm. So by the time we finish this season, we'll have covered 70 episodes of Lost, and there will be 38 to go.
Oh, my God.
So by my count, if we include like our, Lost adjacent, here's the thing these actors were in, and our season-long wrap-ups and such, whenever we come back from our hiatus over the summer, back in September when we come back, we'll have 15 to 18 episodes left to record.
Oh, God.
Right?
I hate that.
I know.
But don't worry, we're working on whatever's next.
Yeah, we've been discussing ideas of what show to do next, and I think we've got a pretty solid plan.
We have all enjoyed this so much, not just watching Lost, but like hanging out, watching stuff, having meals. So yeah, none of us want this to stop.
No, it's a nice feeling of community at a time when it feels like there's not a whole lot of that left. But anyway, before we dive into the episode discussion, let's talk about our themed dinner. I admit we kind of got a little lazy on this one, but I don't have any regrets whatsoever.
Nope.
I don't feel like we've done a lot of like franchise throws though. I feel like we always try to get really particular on this. So I was like, you know what? We've earned one that's just like one of the big names.
Yeah. So since one of these episodes is a Claire episode and takes place in Australia, the flashbacks do, we went to the Australian steakhouse Outback. While we were sitting there, Cara asked me, do you think anything on this menu is like authentic Australian food? So I Googled it, and the answer is no. Outback does not have any authentic Australian meals.
It is as Australian as Olive Garden is Italian and O'Reilly's is Irish.
Amen. But we still had a delicious meal. We ate entirely too much of a bloomin' onion. And I think I left my cheesecake over at your house, Robert.
You know, I keep meaning to bring it back. It's still there if you want it.
You guys can have it. So let's dive into the next 3 episodes. Episode 310, Tricia Tanaka is dead. 311, Enter 77. And 312, Par Avion, however you say that. 310, Tricia Tanaka is dead is a Hurley episode.
Yay.
It's day 76 on the island, which means we had a 2-day time skip, which is rare for this show, which usually tends to go pretty linearly. The last episode was episode 70, or it was day 74 on the island.
I can't help thinking, given what we learn about Jack's status at the end of this, they sort of decided, okay, there needs to be a little more time of his off-screen experiences with the others to get us to that point.
Yes, Jack and Mr. Friendly really had to sit down and hash out their coaching styles and write some plays.
Friday Night Lost.
Hey, I would watch that show.
Look, Smoke Monster, you know damn well this isn't the right thing you need to be doing now.
Well, right off the bat in this episode, we get guest star Cheech Marin. This has been a great season for guest stars so far. Cheech Marin comes in as Hurley's father, who goes off to get a pack of cigs and never comes back.
I think he tells him he's going to Vegas for work, but it implies that he'll be gone for a little bit, but we find out that Hurley doesn't see him for 17 years after that.
Yeah.
What a long business meeting. Come on.
The actor who plays young Hurley looks very convincing as Cheech Marin's kid, not so convincing as young Jorge Garcia, which, since he's sharing scenes with Cheech Marin, that's fine, but it was a little bit distracting where it's like, I do not see this kid growing up to be Hurley.
Yeah.
Well, before he goes away, Hurley's dad gives him a candy bar and tells him not to worry about it because Hurley's mom doesn't want him eating those. And it's hilarious to me that this episode treats his dad giving him a candy bar the way that some shows might treat giving an alcoholic a drink, like that same level of sincerity. It's like, no, don't do it.
Well, it's like in season 1 when Charlie, like things are going crazy with the band and we see the flashback to the first time that he broke down and tried drugs. And it's just kind of that same element of, oh, this is a dark path you go down, young Hurley. Same thing as with when Dave, they tried to they told us that Hurley had like a weight-related accident that people got hurt in. I was like, there doesn't need to be a dark backstory to Hurley being a heavy-set guy. He can just be a heavy-set guy. That's fine.
No. Remember that time Hurley being fat killed 2 people? That was a dark time for the show.
Yeah.
I actually overall liked that episode, but that was just such a weird tonal thing. This episode I like a lot more. It's one that I remember just having good feelings about without having a specific memory as to why. But yeah, on rewatch it, really, I just had a good time with this one.
Every Hurley episode is pretty much a good one like that.
Well, it helps that this is a writer who gets Hurley. I forget to look up who were the writers on this one, but they just give him so many great lines with other people. And just the way he plays off them and just his dynamic with everybody on the island. Like, we get a great scene where he talks to Charlie, who's been kind of broody since we know that Desmond told him he's having visions of Charlie's inevitable death and can't prevent it forever. And refreshingly for this show, when Hurley presses him, Charlie admits what's happening. In fact, by the end of these 3 episodes, Charlie will have shared this with the 2 closest people to him on the island, which is pretty fast revelation speed for Lost. But after Charlie admits that and Hurley doesn't really say anything at first, Charlie's like, aren't you going to tell me that he's crazy, that there's no way that can be true? And Hurley just goes, dude, I think he's right. That's just a great like, what? Reaction from Dominic Monaghan.
Yeah, that's what you want to hear, after they have this revelation, we hear the dog, we hear Vincent, and we know it's going to be good because yay, Vincent. But he comes running in and he's got an arm, a mummified arm. He just wants to play fetch because he drops it and then he picks it up and he runs and he's like, come get me.
Perfectly normal thing to do on this island in particular. And it's great because that leads us into our next jungle run check-in, which is Hurley chasing Vincent through the jungle to find out where the severed arm came from, the mummified arm.
Vincent wins that jungle run.
And he finds a van tipped over on its side with a body inside.
Yep. The one thing in the flashback when Tricia Tanaka is interviewing Hurley and she's like, and why did you buy the chicken shack? And he's like, I like chicken. Because, of course, yep.
We get to see his old boss, Randy, who will eventually wind up as John Locke's boss at the box company. And it's hilarious how quickly Randy has become a complete toady to Hurley. Like, there's no sense of, like, resentment that this guy he used to give a hard time to is now his boss. He's just immediately in full suck-up mode to him.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, as the title indicates, this did not go well for Tricia Tanaka. She and her cameraman go into the restaurant and it is hit by a meteor in just a beautiful literally out of the clear blue sky moment. And the physics are a little bit shaky on that. My understanding is that like a meteor like that is bigger than a golf ball hitting something would like level everything within the block and, it just doesn't even kill people in the parking lot. But it's such a great, what the moment to end that on.
I had forgotten. I'd forgotten a lot of this, but it made me just go. I think I yelled and then at the same time laughed.
Yeah, I mean, as the title tells us, Tricia Tanaka is going to die, and I remembered that obviously happening. I didn't remember it being via meteor, and it's not enough for Tricia Tanaka because we're all on a full name basis with her. To die, she had to die in the most hilariously fucked up fashion possible because this wouldn't be a Hurley episode otherwise.
Just, the idea that the curse is some of the best black comedy this show ever does, that streak continues. So the whole plot of this episode is about Hurley deciding that he's going to fix this van that they found in the forest. Not for any particular reason. It doesn't relate to them getting off the island or getting food or rescuing Jack or anything. He just kind of wants a win. And that's how he pitches it to the rest of the survivors when he's, when he's requesting. He's just like, let's do something. We need to win. We need fun, which going back to season 1 with Hurley and the golf course, it's just a reminder that in his own way, he's just as good at fixing things as Jack, but he does it in just with such a different goal in mind. That Hurley gets people in a way that Jack kind of doesn't, which is why he's miserable. And yeah, again, I just want to keep calling out these nods to, at this point, what I'm pretty sure the creators knew was going to be the end point of Hurley's story.
Well, it struck me really funny watching the episode as Sawyer, Jen, and Charlie accompany him on this mission to get this car started. That it seems as though they are in on the fact that this is what we're doing this week. This is what this one is about.
And Jen, with only like still very limited English, just kind of understands that he's in this plot now and just goes with Hurley to help out. We mentioned Sawyer. So this episode does see them arrive back at the beach, and we get one last scene with him and Kate in the jungle, still seeming kind of pissed at each other, or Kate seems pissed at him, and she offers him a blank slate, which it's, again, not really clear what they owe each other or what the problem is. Like, they both ran when Jack told them to run. But that is a callback to Tabula Rasa, which was the name of Kate's first episode, and a reminder that the blank slate is what she got on the island too. So
because that's literally what Tabula Rasa means.
Yep.
Yeah.
Noted that, like, again, we'll get into this more, but this is not the best season for John Locke, or at least the first half of it isn't. He's not in very much of it. He fails at a lot of things he does. He announced that he was going to go rescue Jack, Kate, Sawyer, and Hurley, and 3/4 of those people just kind of found their way back to the beach on their own, like before Locke even really set out.
Well, before Kate goes off broodingly on her own, and Sawyer goes off to join in the jungle car shenanigans, they're giving each other last looks on the beach, and for some reason the editor decided to throw in some slow motion there and just add some extra drama, and I'm not sure that it did. It just elevated it to daytime soap opera levels that this show is kind of starting to get away from, and I appreciate that.
Yes, I have noticed that the melodrama has gotten less melodramatic.
There used to be kind of the chemistry between Evangeline Lilly and Josh Holloway in the first season, even if you might kind of roll your eyes at the love triangle, there was at least kind of a fun banter to it. Now they just seem kind of annoyed by each other.
They've been with each other for 70-something days. That's plenty of time to hit that point.
Yeah, and they finally had sex, so one's, the tension's over now.
It's all downhill from cage sex.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
So when Hurley and Jen and Sawyer and Charlie go to get this van that Hurley has discovered, and they find the rest of the mummified man. His name is Roger, workman, Roger. When they flip it and they get it back right side up, off its side or whatever, and they have to get Roger out of there, so they reach in and they start to pull him out, and his head popped off, and I laughed. Is that wrong? Does that make me a bad person?
No, because we all did as well. We haven't gotten a whole lot of especially dark corpse-related humor on this show before.
I love dark corpse-related humor.
I mean, same.
Well, this one gives you 2 for 1 because you both get the gag of the head falling off and Hurley awkwardly being like, "We'll just get that later." And then they forget about it, and you get a great reaction beat when Sawyer's like, "Why is there a head in the car?"
That's right.
And it's like, "Oh, that's Roger."
Roger Workman. So we started to do this, and then I think we just gave up at a certain point the Sawyer nickname watch, because it just was insane this episode.
Even the characters get sick of it, as we'll see in the next episode. But yeah, he does. They come fast and furious this time around.
Yes. So he calls Charlie Munchkin, even though he's clearly a hobbit. Snuffy, he calls her, is what he calls Hurley, I guess for Snuffleupagus. Mm-hmm. Skeletor is what he calls Roger Workman. International House of Pancakes, of course, a Hurley reference. Jumbotron for Hurley. Jiminy Cricket for Charlie. But they do get Sawyer back.
Yeah, Hurley gives one back, and what may be one of my favorite line readings from Jorge Garcia in the entire season after he responds to Jumbotron with, "Shut up, redneck man." And even Sawyer gives him a little touche.
Yeah. Sawyer seems impressed by his tenacity.
It's honestly, just like I said, the character dynamics in this episode are so fun because Sawyer starts to repeat his season 2 arc where he gets back and finds that his stash has been raided again. Now, granted, we know that the bottle of scotch that Desmond, Charlie, and Hurley all drank was actually like one of the most expensive scotches in the world. So if Sawyer knew that, I actually would understand him being pretty pissed off that they just all got drunk and had it. But he goes chasing Hurley to yell at him, and Hurley just, as soon as he sees that Sawyer's back, because the last time he saw him was on the dock at the end of season 2, he just runs up and gives him a giant hug, and Sawyer just kind of melts a little bit. Like, he's still trying to be he's kind of crabby to everybody the rest of the episode, but it's this nice deflection of the mistake they made in season 2, with the writers just kind of let him be pissy at people for a couple of episodes, but then just move on from it, and it's absolutely the right call. We also in flashback, so Cheech Marin does return in present day as Hurley is gearing up for his trip to Australia that we know is going to eventually lead him to the island. His mom tries to talk him out of it and calls his father to come and talk to him as well because Hurley's mom doesn't know what show she's on, and she thinks fathers are the ones who help us get past our issues instead of being the root cause of them.
What is it? All horses have cowboy issues or daddy cowboy something?
All horses?
I don't know.
Well,
wasn't there something about
all the best cowboys have daddy issues? All the horses, all the king's men.
They shoot horses, don't they?
I don't know.
Well, we've been talking about getting a Lost-related tattoo. I want mine to say all the horses have daddy issues.
But this whole, we get this whole scene where there's an awkward dinner where the Trons, who are like a Vietnamese couple, I think, that Hurley is picked up to serve as like cooks and butlers in the house, and it's the awkwardness of his father's return. Hurley addresses them as Mr. Tron and Lady Tron at one point. When his mom admits that one of the reasons she wanted his dad back is because she hasn't had sex in 17 years, she takes a moment to cover the ears on the statue of Jesus that's on the table. It's fun. It is. The comedy all hits this episode. And again, Cheech Marin, obviously, comedy veteran, but Jorge Garcia and the actress who plays his mom, whose name I am not remembering right now, all just have a really good time with that. It is a very fun episode, just for the dynamics of the people relationships and the funny parts. It's just been a while since we got to watch an episode where, I rolled my eyes at Kate a little bit, but for the most part, I liked what everybody was doing. I was like, I like where you're going. I like the way you're relating to each other. It's just fun to watch all of these characters in a way that it hasn't always been over the last couple episodes. I initially was saying it's plotless nonsense, but it's fun, but I actually forgot that this does set up several big things. Like, Cara, I'm curious, do you remember who Roger is?
Nope.
David, do you?
Vaguely. Roger Workman?
Yeah. Because we do eventually find out how that van got there and what became of Roger, and it actually is one of a pretty significant moment in the story of the Dharma Initiative.
Mm-hmm. Spoiler alert for things that happened 18 years ago. Yeah. He's Ben's father, right?
Yeah.
Oh. Okay, yeah.
Workman is not actually his last name.
I'm going to jump ahead in the notes here just to piggyback off of what Robert was saying. This episode is very much like I Do and Stranger in a Strange Land in that it doesn't do much to advance the plot, but unlike those two episodes, this is actually fun to watch and enjoyable overall.
Yeah, it's just the idea that they need a win and they get it. And again, when they do get the car going, again, they're not really any better or worse off than they were before, but just everybody's celebrating and having fun, and it's really wonderful to see that, especially knowing that these characters have some really hard times ahead of them.
Yeah, and it makes us like Charlie again, finally, after so many ups and downs, especially because, if this isn't your first time watching, you know that Charlie's time on the show is limited. So I'm glad to see them. I'm glad that they had the forethought to move in this direction to actually make us care about him after seeing him sort of backslide and sort of become an asshole again and, make his relationship with Claire rocky again. Now we're getting into the Charlie that everyone loves and remembers.
Yeah, the way he supports Hurley and just like the look on his face when he agrees to get in the shotgun seat and take that crazy drive down the slope with him. Yeah, it's just a reminder of the friendship that they've had on the island. We also get a really sweet thing because there was some tension between Sun and Jen earlier because she's trying to speak to him only in English to make him pick up the language, and he's clearly still struggling with it. At the end of the episode, they come back, and while we don't hear what he says, he does give her a flower, which is a really sweet callback to their very first flashback episode where Sun lamented that Jen had done all of these things to like make them money and get them a nice house, and really all he ever needed to do was get her a flower. And it's just just a little scene, and Yoon Jin Kim and Daniel Dae Kim just give us all the good feelings.
And then Cara, you have feelings?
Yeah. I mean, you know me, but yeah, I don't think I have smiled this much during an entire episode. Maybe the last Hurley, I don't know, but this I think is the high point of happiness in an episode for me.
Agreed.
We do get at the end, Kate goes trekking into the jungle back to the place where she and Jack got caught in one of Rousseau's traps with Locke and Saeed following her. They kind of go back and forth about whether or not they can find the other's camp. Eventually, Rousseau comes out, and Kate basically says, we should go to the other's camp because I'm pretty sure your daughter's there. But she takes a really long time to explain this. Like, it's a lot of... And kind of goes about 5 sentences past the point where it's like, okay, clearly it's obvious where you're going with this.
I'm ad-libbing here because we were making fun of it through the end of the episode, but she's looking at Rousseau and she's like, because when I was at their camp, I saw a girl about 16 years old, a girl named Alex. And we just continue like, a girl, like the one that you delivered when you were pregnant with a baby that you were eventually going to name Alex 16 years ago after you had sex with that man and he impregnated you with a baby. Like, that's the level of...
I really wish we'd got, when we smash cut to the lost moment, that we'd kept hearing Kate talking over that and just going all the way to the end of the episode's runtime.
Fun stuff. We're going to move on into episode 311, Enter 77, which is on day 79, and this is a Saeed episode. Am I crazy, or has it been a while since we've had a Saeed episode?
I think the last one we had for him was when he met Clancy Brown back in Iraq. So that would have been, the episode where he tortured Ben Linus. So, it's been a bit.
We've already had like 2 Kate episodes and 2 Jack episodes since then. Yeah, give me more Saeed.
Yes, please.
I had to make a note of it because it was jarring to see. Sawyer gets a new shirt in this episode, which is not something that really should be of note, except that he's been wearing that same black 2-pocket button-down since the middle of season 2, I'm pretty sure. I mean, granted, he was kept in a cage with no other alternatives most of that time, but he walked out in that blue button-down, and I was like, hey, look, good for you.
Found a shirt.
Maybe since nobody else was aware that Michael wasn't coming back, Sawyer was the first one to get into his luggage and take all of his stuff.
Well, as Cara alluded to with the last episode, we get another Sawyer nickname watch here. He refers to Paolo as Zorro, presumably because he is Hispanic. He refers to Hurley as Avalanche. And Robert, at this point in the episode, pointed out he's just straight up not using anybody's name anymore. So we just stopped taking Sawyer nickname watch notes because even the characters, like, this becomes a point of the game that they play that Sawyer won't be allowed to use nicknames if he is beaten.
For a week. I would have said forever, but, I wasn't there.
I can't remember what this is in reference to. Why does Saeed say that it's been 2 days?
I think it's a line where it's like, we've been trekking through the jungle for 2 days. Or
that's right.
When they, as they're following the path that Locke has told them they need to go on. Yeah,
Locke, Saeed, Kate, and Rousseau are on their way. So, according to Lostpedia, this is day 79, which would make it a 3-day time skip from the last episode. But Saeed says 2. So who's right here? Lostpedia or Saeed?
I'm wondering if maybe the idea is that, well, no, because I was going to say if like Saeed was counting from when they started walking to follow Kate, but that would make his count longer, not shorter. So
I'm actually going to say, considering the sheer amount of time that the people who run Lostpedia probably put into tracking these days, that this is a rare instance in which Saeed is wrong. It doesn't happen often.
No, it really doesn't.
Well, he makes up for it by being right about basically everything for the rest of the episode.
Yeah, it's true. But also, Cara.
Cows!
They find a very cute little Dharma Initiative ranch out in the middle, not like the Dharma Ranch composite that we've seen people enjoy, but an actual building with livestock.
Cows.
This has just been a good week for Cara. We got a Hurley episode. We get cows. It's great. So after we saw him briefly on the monitor and that little jump scare that we got, we finally are properly introduced to Mikhail. And then, as I noted, we get properly introduced to Mikhail, and Cara got to see a cow.
I had forgot. Well, I remembered Mikhail, like that face. I mean, it's pretty unmistakable.
Great Russian character actor Andrew Divoff. He was one of the hijackers on Air Force One. I'm sure he's played like a Russian. He was a bad guy in an episode of Burn Notice. Just very much a go-to guy for an intimidating Russian dude.
He has the look for it. I really love it.
So everybody gangs up on Sawyer because he's still being kind of an ass about his stash getting raided. And when Nikki tries to get in his face, Sawyer just goes, "Who the hell are you?" Which, man's talking sense.
Yep.
And it plays into your theory that no one noticed that when the bright light appeared in the sky, it just materialized two new people on the island.
That really is my fan theory, that because for all the people in the camp, they just were like, oh, these people must have always been here. But no, they didn't exist before the failsafe key got turned.
And I mean, you can headcanon that by saying like, well, obviously we might not have seen him for the last 70 something days, but how would they be here otherwise?
Yeah.
They've got their own tents down on the beach. Yeah.
I forget the context that gives. I think Jen just gets a reaction shot to one of Sawyer's nicknames, which when even the guy who doesn't speak English is tired of your nickname, Sawyer, it's probably time to take a break. We get in the flashback, so there's a story that I'd actually completely forgotten that this happened. It's another one of the sort of season 3 flashbacks where it doesn't really tell us very much that's new. So it's easy to kind of forget it in the way that you don't forget, say, the events of like Walkabout or Numbers. But it's actually a really kind of effective little one-act play of Saeed working under an assumed name as a cook in a Paris restaurant, getting abducted by the husband of a woman he tortured while he was in Iraq, and that guy basically beating him until he'll admit that he did it, while Saeed tries to deny it. And the husband is played by Sean Tobe, who's a wonderful actor who most people will probably remember from the first Iron Man as the guy who gives Tony Stark the surgery that saves his life and then dies heroically.
Yeah, and this would have been about 14 months before that. I just looked it up. This episode was in March of 2007.
Wow, he was in demand.
Mm-hmm.
He was also just about to be one of the few bright spots of the last Airbender movie that M. Night Shyamalan did. So, he's still spinning straw from gold there.
Which movie?
Apparently, Wikipedia tells me they made a live-action version of the Avatar: The Last Airbender cartoon, which would be ridiculous because the cartoon was just perfect.
Yeah, that doesn't sound like something that happened. I don't remember it at all.
It's a Shyamalan twist. Quick note, Mikhail Buchanan, the name is that of a Russian anarchist philosopher who was just kind of one of the philosophers who came up in the 1800s. Him, Marx, blanking on the other one, but just this whole mix of basically reactionaries against the oppression of the czars. And there was just kind of this huge conflict against, like, a lot of people wanted the czars overthrown. It was just a fight about what that would look like. And the Marxist-Leninists won, but Buchanan was basically just the most hardcore anarchist. Like, he thought we should abolish inheritance, that, like, literally we should make it impossible for anybody to be born with, like, any privilege or status or anything other than just, existing as a human being in the world. Not really something that plays into the character as presented, but kind of an interesting guy.
He also says that when he's talking to Kate and Saeed, he tells them that he's the last living member of the Dharma Initiative, which is another in a long series of notes that I've written right before the show explains the thing that I just took down as a question. Because no, he is obviously not the last living member of the Dharma Initiative. However, he mentions that he came to the island in 1993, which if you're a nerd like me, you're like, oh, interesting. I don't know why I love that shit, like tracking where people were in time. But
well, especially as we get further away from the live period when the show aired, it kind of helps you orient to like, oh yeah, so they're having this conversation in 2004 in an episode that aired in 2007, and it's just interesting to like have those dots that help us orient ourselves in time.
Yeah. Well, in Saeed's flashback in Paris, we wrote down that we get to add Paris to the list of places that they doubled Hawaii as. So it's been Iraq or Afghanistan or both. It's been Los Angeles. It has been Australia. What else?
How do we know that it's Paris, though? Is there some visual thing that establishes that? Some kind of signifier that we view?
Yeah, the baguettes that everyone is carrying.
There it is.
Yeah.
Oh, and also the Eiffel Tower, which Hollywood has told me is visible from literally every point in Paris.
Yeah, you can't swing a dead cat in Paris without hitting the Eiffel Tower.
That's true.
I tried.
You are not welcome back.
I am not.
A nice note, I will say, Kate does get to be a little bit brighter in these episodes. We've talked about her badass to damsel dial, and she's closer to the badass side of that because when Saeed, who, after listening to Mikhail's lengthy story about him being, a Dharma guy who survived the conflict with the others and now just lives on his own, as soon as he walks away, Saeed's like, yeah, that guy's an other. And Kate immediately is just like, well, what do you mean by that? But as soon as Saeed explains his thinking, she gets on board with it, and there's no like, oh, you come on, Saeed, he seems perfectly nice. It's like, no, he's a Russian guy with an eye patch. He's not going to be, he's clearly a villain. Unfortunately, her dumbness has passed on to John Locke, who, like I mentioned, hasn't really accomplished very much this season, and just this episode starts to seem like he's actively trying to just sabotage everybody. Which, as soon as I said that, I think about what's coming in the next few episodes, and I'm wondering that might not be impossible. Mm-hmm. So some of it is that, like, he, after they confront Mikhail and he and Saeed have a fight, which Kate eventually subdues him with a gun, and they tie him up, and Saeed and Kate go searching around, leave Locke to guard Mikhail. And Locke walks away from the guy who is tied up on the ground, but has established that he is a soldier, a veteran of combat who is in his familiar territory in a place that has like farming utensils, kitchen equipment, all that. Locke not only walks away from him, he walks into a different room on the other side of the door. And why does he do that?
Well, it's because he gets to do his favorite thing, which is push buttons on an old-timey computer. Even before, like, they subdued Mikhail, while Mikhail was talking to Saeed and Kate, Locke just fully goes into like this little bunker's dedicated computer room and starts playing chess on it. And Mikhail even stops by to be like, hey, the computer cheats at chess, which seems to just spur John on. Like, we saw briefly, like, you could make a connection here. We saw in one of his flashbacks that he loves games. He worked at a toy store. He explains the concept of mousetrap to a kid. So naturally, he is not going to let a computer beat him at chess.
Yeah.
But hey,
it gets harder to believe after they've subdued the violent, previously armed man, and like Locke is supposed to guard him. And yeah, it turns out that does not go well for him to just leave that guy alone in a room.
No, it doesn't. But guess what? Miss Clue is back. Ms. Terry.
Mystery.
Yeah. Robert remembered. I forgot that this woman ever came back ever again. But she gets to show up for all of about 5 minutes.
Yeah, then so she winds up in it's not a Mexican standoff where both sides have hostages. I forget what the term is, but I just remember there's a joke in the first episode of Archer where his mom's being held hostage and Archer just grabs Lana and puts a gun to her head and goes, all right, we got a Mexican standoff. And the other guy's like, it's not, I don't care if you shoot her. What are you talking about?
Are you erect right now?
But yeah, so Miss Clue gets that one scene, and then yelling in Russian at Mikhail, she basically tells him, don't let them capture me, just shoot me, which Mikhail does. So Miss Clue is back, and then very quickly gets dispatched. And one of those things that gives you a sense that they probably had much bigger plans for this character, but all respect to the actress, she didn't make quite a big enough impression for me to feel more than just kind of, oh, well, okay then, of a shrug to her death.
Yeah.
Locke, meanwhile, so after they subdue Mikhail again, and they're going to grab all the supplies and keep moving towards the other's base, because Saeed, again being the smart guy, finds a map of like electrical grids on the island and figures out that the place where all the electricity is going is probably the other's camp. Locke decides, okay, it's time to make a really good decision and redeem yourself, because by beating the chess game, he activates a video of our old friend Dr. Marvin Candle basically saying, if this has happened, enter this code. If this has happened, enter this code. And one of them is if there's been an incursion by the hostiles, enter 77, which Locke does, and he becomes 2 for 2 in hatches he has entered and hatches he has blown up.
Yep, that is the second time John Locke is responsible for blowing up some sort of bunker that used to belong to the others.
Though honestly, because it's established that this was the station where you communicate with the outside world, that even though Mikhail says that the radio tower hasn't worked in years, Saeed is obviously very interested in the possibility of trying to repair it and make contact. Possible that Locke, who has previously made it clear that he doesn't think they need to get off the island, that maybe that wasn't just stupidity on his part. I don't know. I have vague memories of the next few episodes kind of laying that out. We'll see. I do just want to note again that the story with Saeed, where he at first denies that he tortured this woman who's in his flashbacks where he's been captured and he's being beaten. But when she eventually sits down with him and gives him this actually very well written and well delivered monologue about, well, David, you referenced swinging dead cats in Paris. Her story actually is about finding a cat some kids had been torturing and taking it in and caring for it, but also being patient because the cat will sometimes still lash out, bite, scratch, because it will always remember what that felt like. And she feels the same way about what Saeed did to her. And then Saeed finally confesses that he does remember her and he hates that he did it. And she says that she's not going to be as bad as the person who did that to her. So she'll tell her husband that she got the wrong guy and he'll let Saeed go.
And I totally did that on purpose.
But it's again, for a character who has not appeared before, doesn't appear again, and doesn't really play any big role in the grand mythology, it's actually, it's one of the better examples of these late period flashbacks. It's just sort of giving us texture to what we know about the characters, but also it's a little story that works pretty well on its own. And we see that Saeed in present day decides he's not going to kill Mikhail, who's, despite the fact that he's proven himself dangerous and a liar, he's still going to take him prisoner because he's chosen to be better than he was before.
And that's the beginning of Mikhail's redemption arc, because he's going to be around for a long time, and we're totally going to come to fall in love with him like we do everyone else.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. All right, we're going to move on to episode 312, Par Avion.
Avion.
Avion?
Par Avion.
Thank you. What does that mean, Cara? For birds? For
something
flying?
about flight. Yeah. I forget what par means. It
depends on what language we're talking about, I guess.
Yeah, let's see.
I think it's French, isn't it?
Well, while Robert is Googling that real quick, it is day 80 on the island. We're back to sequential days for a little bit. And this is a Claire episode that starts with an eye watch of Claire. And we very quickly get to see her new terrible wig.
Goth Claire.
Goth Claire. Gotta love it.
It's a quick shorthand. We eventually do find out that she's in the midst of not only a tense relationship with her mother, but they were in fact having an argument in the car where she was like, I hate you. I wish you weren't my mom. You're terrible. So yeah, having her be very gothed up kind of communicates all of that pretty quickly. Back on the island, I also looked it up. Par Avion is apparently a French phrase meaning by plane or by airmail in English. So tying into sort of Claire's plot for the episode. So yeah, back in the present day, the rescue mission is continuing their trek towards the others, and Rousseau and Locke are both of the opinion that they should just kill Mikhail now. And well, I can understand Locke kind of going with with Saeed and Kate's plan to keep him alive. I assume the only reason Rousseau isn't just blowing his head off is because she respects Saeed enough not to do that, because she does seem like the kind of take it into her own hands person when she has that feeling about safety.
Yeah. I can't remember exactly at which point I took this note, but I said, oh, good, asshole Charlie is back. But then, Robert, you noted...
Everybody's kind of an asshole to Claire in this episode, in both the flashback and in the present. We have her because after the accident, she's getting questioned by a cop, and we find out that Claire was driving, and it's implied that she may have been at fault in the accident. And so, yeah, all right, I understand the cop being a little bit interrogative towards her, but at one point he's just like, these questions are always procedure and there's been a fatality, and Claire has to point out, the fatality you're talking about is my mom, who's still alive and in surgery. And the cop just goes, oh, of course. It's just like, come on, man. Yeah, I think you were talking about, though, because Charlie is hanging out with Claire, and I think she sees a flock of birds going by and figures out that if the birds are being tracked, they can catch one, tape a message to its leg, and maybe that'll get to somebody back in the mainland.
That's right.
And Charlie's on board with that until Desmond comes up and very, very significantly tells him, I think hunting with me today would be a really good idea. And Charlie just kind of BS's an excuse and ditches Claire in a way that hurts her because she doesn't understand, because he hasn't told her what's going on with Desmond. Back in the Trek, Mikhail, talking to Kate, says you are not on the list. And I forget what the context is that the list comes up in, but we've heard the list mentioned before. It's Jacob's list. That we know that according to Pickett, Jack wasn't on that. And now, according to Mikhail, Kate wasn't on it.
I don't think they knew what the list was at this point, because if they're talking about like Ben's list, yes, both Kate and Jack were on that. And if they're talking about Jacob's list, we'll find out in season 6, Jack and Kate were both on that too.
Yeah.
So I don't know what list Danny and Mikhail could be referring to. Like gluten allergies?
Probably.
I guess there's just some background group of the survivors who are just pillars of moral virtue and purity, because, you know, Mikhail's like, oh, you're not on the list because you're flawed and messed up people. And it's like, that describes pretty much everybody who's not Hugo.
Except Nikki and Paolo.
Yeah.
They are the only names on the list.
And Vincent. He's
Vince's
a good boy.
Yeah, he starts to do the sort of, oh, well, I know this about you, Kate Austin, and I know this about you, Saeed Jarrah, and I think I know you, John Locke, but I must be a little mistaken because the John Locke I knew was parallel. And right then, Rousseau interrupts to mention that she's found the sonic fence. So, fun setup for what's coming in the next episode, and a reminder that I think Rose is the only person on the island who knows that Locke was in a wheelchair before the crash. Still at this point, I think he told Boone at one point in the episode before Boone died, but I don't think any of the other survivors know that as a fact about him.
No, but this does make 2 back-to-back episodes in which Saeed is trying to keep a group of dum-dums alive.
Oh my gosh, they're trying so hard. Just
And they're
increasingly frustrated.
They're fighting him every step of the way.
Yeah, Locke is kind of back to the way he was in season 1, where he would just sort of do things and according to like his own plan. And in season 1, we knew he'd had this encounter with the monster, and he seemed so sure of his purpose, and it was kind of intriguing, like, ooh, what's he doing? What does he know? And now we know that he's just sort of making it all up as he goes along, so it's just kind of like, oh my gosh, you idiot, stop just doing these things. Like, in this case, well, not that we get there yet, but it's just his self-assuredness, despite the fact that we know he doesn't have any special knowledge, is just, it's getting to be a little much.
Yeah. Of course, because Charlie's an asshole right now, Claire's kicked him out for what, the second time, I guess?
I think at least the second time of any importance to the plot, yes. But hey, it's Christian Shepherd again. We finally get confirmation that, or we finally find out, the show hadn't even alluded up to this point, I don't think, that Christian was her father. But here we find out that he is.
It was heavily hinted in Two for the Road, where we find out why he was in Australia.
Yes, that's right.
But this confirms a fan theory.
Yep. So we can add that to the list of connections that Christian Shepherd had, which included Jack, Ana Lucia, Sawyer, and now Claire.
And, of course, Boone and Shannon, because their father and stepfather, respectively, died in his hospital.
But Claire never knew his name. She was like, I don't want to know your name. And
right.
Yeah.
Okay.
So she doesn't know his last name was Shepherd, so she doesn't connect him to the doctor who was on the plane with her.
Excellent.
And even if he had, like, even if she'd known, she wouldn't have encountered Jack and been like, Shepherd, Jack Shepherd. I knew another guy named Shepherd. You must be father and son. That makes you my brother. I don't encounter somebody else and I'm like, Hayes. Your last name is Hayes. You must be related to my friend Cara.
Well, no, but at the same time, whenever I see the name Hensley, I'm like, hey, I wonder. Because, it's not exactly Smith or Jones.
There is another David Hensley in this city. who
God, we have to kill him.
I know. He runs some sort of business that involves a big-ass truck with his/my name on the side.
Oh, God.
I was pumping gas one day. This was like a decade ago. Pumping gas, and I just happened to look up as a truck was pulling into the parking lot that had my name in big letters on the side. And I was like, what the fuck? Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, fun fact. Sorry.
Neat. I love it.
We do get a continuation of Evangeline Lilly getting to kind of ninja warrior her way around the island, because first we got her sort of monkey climbing her way out of and then back into her cage back on the other's island. And now she gets to shimmy up a pole that they've made to get over the death fence that surrounds the other's encampment, which, again, impressive bit of her own stunt work. Mikhail gets a gnarly death there because Locke just shoves him through it, and he seems okay for a moment. I think he says thank you to Locke, and then seems to bleed out of his mouth and ears and collapses.
I think his brain melted.
But this won't be the last time that we see Mikhail. He's got one more important thing to do this season.
Well, I honestly I thought he was in much more than basically an episode and a half. He was so much bigger in my mind, I guess. But I do remember the scene when they're looking like sort of up the mountain and they see all the little pylons. I do remember that. As soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, yes.
Yeah. I think that's another case where the actor, I think, just did really well with a fairly limited number of scenes. And they'd already written, it's like, well, he needs to die because he can't just be with them while they're getting close to the other's camp. But we're going to figure out some way to have this guy around a little bit more.
Well, it's through Claire's interactions with Christian that we find out that through his absence, he might have been a better father to her than he ever was to Jack, which is kind of sad.
I mean, granted, he's trying to help her find a way around Australian laws and euthanize her mother, but still, he's doing it in an emotionally supportive way.
Like you should.
They do a lot of pairing Emily de Ravine with... I think she's probably the shortest of the main cast members now that Walt isn't on the show anymore.
The shortest adult cast member.
And they just keep putting her in frames where you're just reminded that like guys like Christian Shepherd or Desmond just tower over her by comparison.
She is 5'2".
Yeah. Wee little Aussie.
Me too.
You get she eventually does confront Desmond because after he first like kind of convinces Charlie not to help her catch the bird and then shoots off a gun right when she and Jen and Son are about to catch some in a net. She goes up and just demands to know what's going on. What I kind of love about the way this is written and played is that Desmond doesn't just be like, I don't know what you're talking about. That's crazy. She's like, you're trying to sabotage me. And he just goes, why would I do that? Like, he's not denying it and he's not lying to her. He's just like letting her, he's like, if you want to figure out why this is happening, you can. I'm just going to ask you the questions that you'll need to answer. Just a fun piece of like how exhausted he is by all this. Speaking of bad parents, so we now find that Claire's mom has been comatose for the entire time of Claire's pregnancy and at least a couple of years before that. In the upper tier of mothers on Lost, honestly. Well, still well ahead of like Shannon's stepmother and Son's mom. So she's doing pretty well.
It's hard not to.
Yeah, in the long run, I think Claire ended up better off with an absent dad and a comatose mom.
Yeah.
Which doesn't say much for this show's opinion on parenthood. Who is it? Is it Desmond or Hurley? Who is it that tells Charlie, you're going to be okay, Charlie?
I think it's Claire.
Oh, yeah.
Desmond does eventually fill her in on what's going on, which, again, it's nice that they've let both of the people close to Charlie know this now. And she gives him kind of a pep talk, just saying, I'm not giving up on you. And so they tie a message to the leg of a bird and release it together.
Yeah, well, when she says, you're going to be okay, Charlie, all three of us did that. Oh, man. But the episode ends with one of the biggest what the fuck cliffhangers that this show has. After trekking for 2, possibly 3, depending on who you believe, days, Saeed, Rousseau, Kate, and Locke make it to the other's camp. And what do they see but Jack running towards them as though he is trying to escape once more? Except no, he turns around and catches a football. And who threw that football?
Mr. Friendly.
What?
And they even smashed a black on Jack spiking the football, which is the writers patting themselves on the back a little bit, but it's fun.
It really is. I mean, that's what they were spent those last 2, maybe 3 days doing, is Jack had to perfect like his button hook catch maneuver. Yeah, it's just a great, like, it ends on the faces of Kate and Locke and Saeed being like, what the hell is this shit? Jack has already gone native, and that didn't take long at all. Oh man, this is compared to like the last couple of runs that we have done that included I Do and Stranger in a Strange Land. This was a really good series of them. Really enjoyed it. For those interested, the relevant date. So we're a little bit late on this episode. We missed our Wednesday recording time. It is now Saturday the 17th, and this episode is coming out on Sunday the 18th. So around this time, on May 18th in 2005, we got Exodus, the last episode of season 1. May 17th, 2006, 3 Minutes, which was episode 222. Season 3 on May 16th, 2007, Greatest Hits.
Aww.
May 15, 2008, There's No Place Like Home Part 1. So that was the beginning of the finale for season 4. May 13th, 2009, The Incident. Mays are just going to be rough months. It's probably a good thing that this is going to be like the only May we're going to be recording during.
Yeah.
And then May 18th, 2010, What They Died For, episode 616. So those were our run this week. You guys have any final thoughts about these episodes before we wrap up?
Just, like I said, good run, good batch of episodes, and I'm back to feeling very excited about where the show is and where it's going in the rest of the season.
Fantastic. Same. Do you guys want to give out your social media handles or tell us what thing you've been doing recently that you enjoy that doesn't involve being on social media? I'm
finishing up an audiobook called Rubicon by a historian named Tom Holland about the fall of the Roman Republic. He's a British historian, podcast host that I like, not the Spider-Man guy. Just found it on sale one day, listened to it. I know that period of history pretty well, but it was still really fun to hear his telling of it.
Kara, what about you?
Well, oddly enough, I just started listening to Rubicon this week. Based on Robert's recommendation. So yes, I have just started. I do not, even though I am a historian, I don't particularly know the ancient Roman type stuff, but it is very fun. I'm enjoying it. Very confused by everybody, but that's okay.
Oh my God, this is going to be both of your Roman empires. Oh man, I'm not reading and or listening to anything right now. I've been kind of slack about that for a while. I should, try enjoying some fine literature instead of doom scrolling like I normally do.
Or some not so fine literature.
Well, yeah, some trash literature as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. If you want to follow me online, the best place to do that is on Instagram at dbhensley. If you want to keep up with Long Walk Productions, you can visit us online at longwalk.us. To see more of our original work or hear past episodes that are no longer streaming, you can follow the YouTube links in the show notes. Thank you very much for listening, and if you enjoy this show or any of the shows on the Long Walk Podcast Network, of which there aren't many anymore, this is pretty much the only consistent show we have going on Long Walk Talks at the moment, but if you enjoy it, please make sure to leave us a rating and a review on whatever platform you're listening on. Hey Robert, go long!
Yeah.